Okay, everybody want to turn on?
Put the gavel down.
I don't have a gavel, but.
Probably still in the drawer.
All right.
Everyone-
Hello? Hello? 6 o'clock, so we're going to get started. We have a pretty full agenda tonight, so we'll try to work through that. Some people who are here as guests, we'll try to get up front as possible. So why don't we start with, as we always do, the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. John able to join at this point?
He's in the lobby. I'm admitting him. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Okay. So before we get started with the agenda, we have John Morgan here tonight remotely, so we will need a motion to allow him to join the meeting remotely.
Moved.
Second.
Okay, and we'll need a roll call from this point forward on all votes in order to, well, not just for this, but on all votes moving forward.
Mhm.
So, Jim
I'm a no.
and Andy,
Aye.
Letty.
Aye.
And I'll vote aye, so that passes tonight, and John is led into the meeting at this point. The first item on the agenda will be to review and approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda from this week includes the public minutes from the last meeting, which was 3 weeks ago, April 15th of 2025. There were non-public minutes in that meeting on April 15th, 2025. There was the rec manifest, which everyone should have had an opportunity to
There's
look.
3 of them, I think.
Yeah, there's actually 3 rec manifests from the last 3 weeks. That includes today, the week prior, and the week prior. And then there are also building permits that have accrued as well, so everyone should have reviewed and signed those as well. So if everyone is in agreement, I would take a motion to approve that consent agenda.
Moved.
Second.
Okay?
Aye.
And Jim? Andy?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
John?
I'll abstain.
Okay, and I'm an aye, so I'm going to pass this around for signature.
Forgot
And I know I'm doing this a little bit out of order in that I went with the consent agenda before going through the payroll, which we'll need to sign as well. But for this past week, the payroll was $42,645 with payroll taxes of $10,153. And that was for 5/3. For 4/26, there was payroll of $37,710, payroll taxes of $9,322. And we had accounts payable this past week in the amount of $63,132 for April 30th. Accounts payable in the amount of $21,745. We had payments over that time frame since the last meeting to Swayze in the amount of $245,000 and to the co-op in the amount of $709,932. So, having reviewed all of that, I would ask for a motion to approve that, and we can sign off on it.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Okay. Jim?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so I'm going to pass this around for everyone's signature. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
you can.
Chief, there was a lot of overtime last week, 2 weeks ago? 27 hours? 27 and a half hours. I'm not upset. You have a big budget, but I just wasn't sure if you need more people.
I believe that was one, we had multiple trainings that week.
Oh, good.
Just sign in your spot, sorry.
Shift coverage for said trainings.
Okay, perfect. Training is good. Thank you.
So the first item on the agenda tonight is the Eagle Scout project. So Dexter and our Eagle Scout, nice to see you. Have a seat.
Yeah, just push the button.
Yeah, you have to push the button so you're on mic.
So I have a few things to pass out first.
Okay.
If you can, just put the mic close to your mouth so you.
Good evening, Select Board. My name is Akshish Penyamatsa. I am a Life Scout from Troop 323, and I'm a sophomore at Exeter High School, and I also live in Brentwood. I'm here today to ask for your support and request permission for my Eagle Scout project. So my project is to install a flagpole at the Brentwood Historical Society, and I will also, along with that, I will landscape the surrounding area by installing perennials and decorative edging. And so this will elevate the Brentwood Historical Society's social presence in the community, and it will also benefit it as well. And so along with that, I will also be part of the Brentwood July 4th parade with the flagpole. And I will also be officially raising the flag on July 12th as part of the Brentwood open house for the Brentwood Historical Society. And that will be commemorating the American Independence Day 250th anniversary, which lasts until 2026. So I am requesting your permission to install the flag on town grounds as it is on the Brentwood Historical Society grounds. And I'm also requesting for the flag to be given by you or just the money because it is a town flag. And since it's a 4x6 flag, since the flagpole is 24 feet tall. And it will be completed by scouts from Troop 323, but I would be doing the majority of the work. And so
Okay.
thank you for hearing my requests, and if you have any questions, you can ask them.
Well, thank you for making such a well thought out presentation.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? I guess my only question to you, Dexter, I'm assuming by all of this that this is something that you are in agreement with as the full support. Okay. All right. So my understanding is that it would, the labor you would provide and the town would provide the flag. I don't know what that would cost, but probably, do you have any idea
Yeah,
what?
it would cost around $50.
Okay. Mr. Hajar, as the budget, is that in our budget? Okay. So does anyone have any questions about this?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Jim?
Aye.
Angie?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye. Thank you very much for the work that you're doing, and best of luck, and I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we have next on the agenda, Tony Belanger from Casella, who's going to give us an update as to where things are with the conversion to automated garbage pickup. I hope I'm getting the subject correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
Rolling out to automated from manual collection. For the record, my name is Tony Belanger from Casella Waste Services, and I'm the municipal rep for New Hampshire and Massachusetts for Casella. Formerly with Pinard Waste Systems for about 38 years, and we used to service you as well, so I'm very familiar with the town. And my intent tonight was to briefly go over the proposed rollout or commencement date. Difference between commencement and rollout. Obviously, commencement is the first day of collection, and rollout is the weeks prior to, where we actually deliver the carts to the homes. And there's a short list, you know, about, I've got about 8 things here listed that I typically like to bring to the attention of the town before we run into this process, because as a rule, people do not like change. And once they, if you put a lot more time into discussing what's going to change and getting the conversation going earlier, then it makes the process a lot easier for everybody involved. So I'll follow your agenda here if you want to ask questions of me, or if you want me to roll into the brief list, however you prefer.
Yeah, please, give us a summary. I think everyone wants to know, in particular, when in terms of timeframes, so we have that in mind.
Yep. So we're proposing an 8/1 commencement, which will entail for a town this size, probably a 7/15 rollout, 7/15 to 8/1 in that rough time frame. And we chose that. We wanted to do July, but we recently acquired a contract with the city of Drake at Mass that's starting July 1st. So we didn't want to tax the operations department because they're both running out of Salem, New Hampshire. Eventually, we might move you to the Pinard location in Raymond, but right now, the way it's set up with the personnel and the trucks, it's running out of the Raymond shop. So I think that just provides a better time frame for success on to make sure that the drivers are all trained and ready to go with their new trucks, and got the pattern set up, and it'll just make for a better crossover. The areas of summary that I'd like to bring to your attention and discuss over the next maybe 3 or 4 weeks would be preparation for the rollout. And I'll start off, I didn't put them in any particular order, but I'll just start off with naming them. And if you want to stop me and ask questions on each one, you can do that, or hear them all and then come back, whatever is best for you. So the first thing is, brochures. You currently have a town brochure that describes the program that we're now running, right? And getting the edits for that brochure to announce a rollout of this net magnitude to the residents is priority 1. That's got your education. It gets the words, going, people talking to each other about it, maybe your Facebook group or your, however you get around in town to get people involved. So it's not a surprise to them.
So these are brochures that you're going to print for us, or is that,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, we'll create a digital version for your website.
Yep.
And on our website. We will have a rollout distribution brochure, okay? So what happens with this is it gets delivered with the carts to the homes, and it has a educational piece on the front with the new brochure included as a rule. And the creation of that should be a collaboration between Casella and Brentwood. So the next one is the items that tend to create issues going from a manual collection to an automated collection. I'll start listing these off, and again, stop me if you want to jump in and ask, but cart size. Typically, most towns create an ordinance to go along with a volume ordinance to go along with a automated collection procedure. If you're gonna have 65-gallon carts, then you'll usually have a 65-gallon ordinance, and so on and so forth, or 96-gallon. And same thing with the recycling, so that everybody basically is mandated to use the volume of the cart, and if they have more than the cart can handle, you have, some kind of provisions to anticipate what you're gonna do in a case where people can't get away with the size of the cart.
so do you have like sample language of ordinances that you've worked with in other towns for us?
Oh, for sure, yeah,
Okay.
this is more of a municipal thing than it is, we just happen to create the program to go with the ordinance.
Okay,
But the ordinances are usually created to go with the size of the carts.
Yeah.
And what you see, some towns don't have recycling, so they have a larger ordinance for trash. Like maybe they'll go with a 96-gallon cart for trash because they don't have recycling, right? So they're trying to get both products into one barrel. Towns that do have recycling, they have two different processes that they'll choose, an every other week program or a once a week program. If it's an every other week program, you usually have a larger cart for recycling because you're going every 2 weeks between collections. And if it's a once a week, then you'll have a smaller cart, like a 65-gallon. So yeah, if you have not anticipated this or thought about this, then it's a good thing to start talking about this amongst yourselves because it tends to be a hot topic item with the residents, for sure. And I highly recommend you have even with the ordinance, that you have an overflow clause, the ability to purchase extra volume and reimburse the carrier or the town for that. For, some people can't get away, they just have exigent circumstances. I won't go into what they might be, but they're out there, people that have more trash and they need more trash. It's not that they're not trying to keep it down, but they don't have a choice. So having a supplemental, and in some cases, a hardship, we'll call it, provision, so we got cart size.
I'm sorry, what would that be, the hardship?
Let's say you have, just an example, I had a resident in Hudson that had can't remember what the medical issue was, but the amount of supplies that came to their house for this medical issue was exigent. It was a lot, and the new system did not provide for it. So the town, in her case, they came up with, and because this worked, but they came up with dumpsters at the town hall, the DPW, where they could go to there and get rid of their excess materials, the cardboard in this particular case, and the styrofoam that came along with it.
I would think that another one, there are a lot of people that run their businesses out of their homes today. They might get a lot of shipments and whatnot, so I would think that that would be another one, another example.
So this would be a discussion. I mean, you guys have to create, what you feel, and you'll get a lot of input from your residents, I'm sure, and you can have a good discussion about it, and at the end of the day, probably come up with a good system. So, but that's just one of the bullet points that I'd like to get into the discussion for you. Other things that happen, and a lot of this stuff can be taken care of after the rollout when we start commencement. We have stickers that the drivers keep with them normally for this situation, because people move in, people move out. The new people that moved in aren't as educated as the people that moved out, so they have to learn. But orientation, where to place your cart, how to place your cart, which direction to put it. It's all in the brochures. But in some cases, the brochures don't give enough information for isolated situations like back down dead-end streets, for instance. When you have one arm on the right side of a truck, and we can't have that truck driving down a dead-end street and then backing out into what we call death, traffic. So typically, we'll have that truck drop back down that street, and we'll have everybody on the right side as you're looking down move it over to the left side, and they'll collect all there, which creates some tension sometimes with the people on both sides of the street. The ones that have to walk across the street get a little upset that they have to roll their cart across the street sometimes, and the people that are on that side of the street, why do I have my neighbor's carts in front of my house? So those are things that you'll typically run into and try to find the best solution for keeping everyone as happy as you can, I've done many of these rollouts since 2006, and it's always been an issue. And I don't know of any one of them that were not solvable to the point where everybody was happy. So like I said, most people just don't like change. So you have to kind of work with them and get them to have a say in it and discuss it, and usually come up with a good, but safety always comes first when it comes to picking up or driving a truck. And so that will have to prevail, and then we can kind of hone in on the ones that, don't make the residents happy, but they have to be something like that to keep it safe. So just a great discussion to have beforehand. The next one is one-way streets. I only know of one, and it's been a while, but I only know of one in Brentwood, and I think it's right here, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not sure if it affects. Is this a one-way street right here going down? But there's no homes on it, right? It's just
This room
yeah.
or this?
This road coming down here.
Oh yeah, no, that's two ways.
Is it two ways? Okay, so you don't have any one-way streets. I didn't think so. I thought this might have been one, but okay. So we won't have to deal with one-way streets. That's good. And then after we get into it, this is a post-commencement issue. Is you'll typically get a lot of people that are used to seeing the trucks drive in a certain way and be at their house at a certain time. And when you do automated collection, drivers tend to pick patterns where they start on one side of a neighborhood. They may go out a long ways and then come back in and work their way backwards towards a main spot or going towards a disposal site. So the guy across the street sees his neighbor get picked up early in the morning, and it's been 2 or 3 hours, and hey, maybe they've missed me because I used to see them much earlier. Because rear load trucks do much shorter patterns than ASL trucks do. So that's something that we may just try to have something in place to communicate in the brochure that times may change. Days will stay the same, but your pickup time. So 7 o'clock is really important that you get it out by 7 o'clock because you used to get picked up at 10 o'clock in the afternoon, and now you're getting picked up at, 10 o'clock in the morning, and now you're getting picked up at 8 o'clock, or vice versa. They're used to seeing you at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and now they're getting picked up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So getting ahead of that curve always helps to make the program more palatable, rather than them coming out and saying, like, oh, I wish we could have the old system, we would never had this problem, which is what we're trying to avoid. So, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. I just have one really basic question.
Mhm.
And this was probably covered previous, but, so we have the carts, but then there are bins that go with the carts? So you put a bin in the cart? I'm just trying to mechanically envision.
The cart is the whole thing. They
Oh, the
just call
cart
it
is the
carts.
whole thing.
I
I
can
got
get
it.
one. It's at the end of the hall in the other.
Do you have some
Oh.
samples here, or,
Well,
because I can get you some if you don't.
Oh,
If,
yeah.
if you don't
That'd be
have
great.
samples, I can make sure we bring some over so you can.
Yeah, that'd be
for
great.
Future discussion.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Have you ever done houses with like ADUs or in-law apartments? They get a 96 where everybody else would get a smaller, because you actually have two families creating trash instead of one.
Yeah, so in my experience, there's two types of them. One is an approved, and one is a non-approved. The non-approved, someone who took a space above their garage and made a space out of it that can support another family. That is a 96 in all her glory. That's a big,
Okay.
yeah.
Looks like a garbage bin.
Well, so now think about your 88-year-old grandma, okay, and they tend to get a little, by that size, right? And
Very easy to wheel.
they are, I typically, this is what I would recommend.
No, it's not.
Do this, here, even in the winter and snow, it acts like a walker. Or the way these kids how to play hockey on the ice, right? They cheer in front of you. That's some of the things part of education. But in developing it, that's a great representation of where people might start getting a little, scared of the program. Is if, hey, they've had these little barrels they've used for years. They love them, they get along with them, or they got wheels, and now, oh my God, I can fit two of myself inside this thing, right?
Mhm.
So, but it goes away as long as we're all speaking out of the same mouth, with the same language. Typically, we can resolve the issues without people getting too worried or upset.
And the recyclable cart would look like that. Or
That is a recycle.
Oh, that's
That
recyclable.
one's a recycling cart because it has the blue cover with the recycling on the top. It says recycling, but, and I'm not sure what we're doing in Brentwood yet. I'm kind of new. I think you're doing every other week recycling.
Yep.
shows,
Yep.
Right? So that was what we recommend. But that, even for some people, might just be overkill,
Who gets to choose the size of the container?
I think
Yeah,
we do.
So that's a great question. That's part of this
We do.
education is, I typically like to get the three parts out there. So people can see what they are like, understand that this will be picked up every 2 weeks, okay? And that the trash toter, which is gonna be a little shorter than this, it's a 65 gallon, this is a 95 gallon, and then they have a smaller one, which is a 35 gallon that we use in very limited circumstances. Because the wind will blow them over very easily, right? When you have uneven ground, they'll fall over easier because they have less body and less girth to them. We try to stay away from the 35s, but at the same time, they're necessary evil for some people, especially in like condominiums with elderly and over 55s and stuff like that. You'll find a lot of them, they don't care, they'll pick it up again, So, but you would be the ones to decide, how to go about it. Usually we just deliver them, and then take the feedback, because it's always the smallest percentage that requires a smaller cart. So the program will suffice for the majority of your population. And, you know, ahead of time, you know, if you have some people that you know for sure, well, maybe you drop a short list of people that have voiced the concern, or they're from other towns and they know about this or whatnot. But ultimately, I'd just be prepared. I'll get some more information for you on this, because it is the hottest part of this issue is cart size. So I'll get some advice from my peers as to how they typically handle it. I know at Pinard how I did, but Costello may have a better idea, or they may have different ideas that will work as well.
And you,
So, under the contract, Andy, was it the 96?
We get to,
We didn't have a cart size picked out.
Okay. So we have that option.
Yes.
Okay.
I think because recycling's every other week.
Right.
Probably the big makes sense. But
And so some of the things with recycling is, the only thing that makes recycling with automated carts is a little bit more problematic or difficult is cardboard. We're a cardboard society, right? Amazon, eBay, and all that stuff, right? And as you can see, if you put a cardboard box inside this, it's going to take up a lot of space. So a lot of times we'll recommend that people flatten down and go above the top and just, you know, put twine around it or something, so that it's got some body, so that when you dump it within the truck. Also, in some towns we provide, or the town has the foresight to provide cardboard location, like at your transfer station, where people can bring excess cardboard from like a move-in or something like that, and give, you know, favorable rates for that, just so to make the curbside program a little bit more palatable and successful. So these are all things that I would certainly have in your discussions. We have many examples that we can show you of towns that have done like that. Hudson does that. The one I spoke of, Hampstead, does that right down the street here. They have one at their Public Works Department and one at their transfer station that they've stationed for that problem. And it works, and it's low cost.
and once we determine the cart size that we want, Casella will drop these off at everybody's residence. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I typically will create a distribution list from your town tax card. If you can export your town tax card into an Excel format, I'm not sure if you can or not. I typically take that Excel spreadsheet and turn it into a delivery list and an exception list. Okay, so like, when I see the commercial stuff, like the town farm or the businesses on 25, do you let businesses in your program now?
Just recycle, I think.
I don't know.
Because
I don't know why you're looking at us.
the emergent, well, you have a business.
I do.
Do you get pickup?
Do not.
Have you ever tried?
Do you,
Nope.
do they,
I have a dumpster,
do they pick up your recycle?
not Casella waste either. What? I'm sorry, what?
Do they pick up
No.
your recycle?
Mm.
Because I know the emergency vet puts out their recycle, but they don't put out their trash. So,
Guess
I've
we'll need
never
to
seen
figure that
anyone
out.
pick up at my office.
Have you ever tried though?
I've never tried
Just
either.
leave some trash out, see what happens.
Well, this is a really, the best reason for an ordinance is
Yeah.
to identify who your customers are.
it's a planning board question.
And so like, we find a lot of this in manual programs where you got a rear load truck going down the road. He doesn't know whether it's a house or not, but typically the towns will tell us who's allowed in the program and who isn't. And usually it's 1 through 4 families or 1 through 3 families. Residential application are allowed. Everyone else, you know, is considered commercial and they're on their own, you know. So in this case here, a small town, right? has been, had the same form of collection for many years. And no one's really thought too much about the vet that puts a couple bags out at the, you know, because they're not like putting these big, huge piles. It doesn't ring out. But if the Kubota place all of a sudden started putting all their boxes out there, you'd probably have someone coming to you and saying, hey, isn't this a little excessive for a residential program? The carrier would probably cry foul, but I would certainly recommend that at very least we identify anyone on our end as your provider. We know who's putting out every week, right? And we can certainly bring that to you and say, hey, here's some ones that you may find are, you know, businesses that are joining the residential program, and then let you decide how you want to. We certainly don't want to be the trash police, but we can certainly assist you in figuring out who you want to be your customers, and maybe having a conversation with the vet. Hey, is this going to hurt you if we don't have, you know, now that we're going to carts, and you can put a little personal touch on it. I wouldn't think it would be the biggest problem that we'll have to solve. I don't think there's a lot of it going on out there, but
Won't be in Brentwood because we don't have Vets Club.
Ru- Is,
Yeah, I think we have some.
I
questions.
still have one more. The only other thing in the brochure I would recommend looking at is we currently have a curbside bulky goods program where the residents can buy a sticker and get rid of one item a week.
Mhm.
So when we talked about going to automated, we talked about transitioning to a once or twice a year bulky goods pickup. So that's something else we're gonna have to do education on, and that the usage of the facility in Raymond as well
yep,
for bulky items.
absolutely.
Which I think I figured out is actually cheaper to bring it to Raymond than it was to purchase a sticker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Assuming you
But-
can get it there.
yes, assuming you could get it there.
Yeah, okay. Well, certainly.
That's what yard sales are for.
Or just put it up at the side of the road. That's what I do.
Free.
Yep.
So certainly part of these discussions in the coming weeks would be how you want to develop that Brokey program. And, you know, my recommendation would be either once a month or twice a year. They both work very well. Obviously, the once a month stuff, I'm not sure if it's priced into this new contract. I'll have to find that for you.
It's not.
It's not, okay.
I think twice a year was,
That's what's priced in? Okay. Then we'll certainly work on how can we get the word out ahead of time, because this is going to be an 8/1 start, and until then, everything will be business as usual. So luckily, October's right around the corner, so it won't be too much of a disappointment to say, hey, the first one's going to be October 15th or something like that, and we'll announce that in the brochure. And then you'll also have the one for May. It's typically October and May, unless you decide otherwise. So that date will be decided in the next 3 or 4 weeks and put on that brochure and distributed, and we, again, get the word out through your Facebook outlets and however your other best areas of communication are, plus the brochure that will be handed out with every cart. And if you want to get a chuckle, after the rollout, if you ever get a chance to watch the carts out there, the one thing we laugh about in the trash business is how many of those brochures are still hanging.
For how long, right?
I've had them out there for years. But again, that doesn't mean that people aren't getting educated. It's that they probably already read about it online and heard about it throughout the town and said, I don't need to read that. So, but that's how we typically get the word out, is by attaching them to the carts when we deliver them, and hoping that people take the time to read it, you know.
Doug? Is there a situation? Come up. Sorry, I know.
I know. You could take the handheld one and just pass it around if you wanted.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh.
Doug Finn, Gove Road. Is there a time or a situation that you will not pick up the full container for any reason at all, if it's turned around improperly, or
Repetitive.
what's
So
that
if you have
mean?
a repetitive, the person has put it out, we've put an educational sticker on it saying, please place your cart this way, okay? And then we come back the next week and it's turned back around the other way again. Typically, we will eventually, to get their attention, we will leave it. And we'll put the sticker on it saying, you know, because you have it placed in the wrong spot or the wrong direction. And at that point, it's just our intent to educate. And typically, if there's any way that we have the ability with other trucks and other runs, like say maybe Stratford, we got a Stratford truck coming back empty, and the person, you know, as long as we get them before the next week, right?
Correct.
We'll go back and help them, because again, we want them to be on board with us.
Okay.
And, but yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Thank
Same
you.
thing with placement instructions. If they keep putting it in a spot like where we go to put out the arm and we're in danger of hitting a car because it's too close to a car or a mailbox or a tree, that would be a placement violation. And they would put a sticker on it, they would move it to the ideal placement and say, place cart here, okay? And that's how we get the people educated. That like that one-way street I was telling you about, the back down, you know, when we tell people, we put them across the street, we put a sticker on and say, place cart here. And that's to try to get the phone to ring so we can discuss it with them and get them educated.
When you talk about the sticker, do you have a small video, instructional video online through YouTube?
There's a lot of YouTube videos out there, but I can find out. Good question.
Bruce, did, I think Bruce is, okay.
Don't fight over it.
Yeah.
Bruce Stevens, South Road. Just up here, or just by the way my house is situated on South Road, I'm next to two town roads that go into Kingston. Kingston's had, through Waste Management, has had this pickup program going on for some time, and I watch that and see those cars all the time. It seems to work slick. I mean, I never really see any barrels turned around the wrong way. It's going to happen when it starts, but seems to be a great program. Now, we've got to turn back the clock to before most of you guys were in Brentwood. Andy was alive then, but back in '86, when the Kingston dump closed, prior to that, people in Brentwood physically took their trash in their car or pickup truck to the Kingston landfill and threw it in the hole. So in '86, the Kingston landfill closed to anybody but commercial rubbish haulers. So you were here. And so some procedures had to be put into place. And the time the Board of Selectmen voted, so it was a Board of Selectmen policy that no commercial rubbish would be picked up. And that created some discussions among the business owners who said, look, we pay all these taxes, we get nothing. We don't put kids in school, we get nothing. But the select board at the time, it was a little after Light Cross's time, but the vote was no to commercial trash pickup. No, traveling back 125, working on 125 for many years, I would see occasionally a small business would put out a small amount of trash and it was picked up. Nobody ever discussed it, but that was the hard and fast policy that the Board of Selectmen adopted. So to be fair for everyone, we ought to have the same thing. And I think as the businesses are a little larger now, everybody, I know at Highland Hardwoods, we always had a couple dumpsters.
What kind of policy would that be?
Well, the policy was simply that the trash pickup program would be for residents.
But like a zone, like where would that be recorded anywhere?
Well, I mean, I don't know, it was the Board of Selectmen,
Ordinance.
Board of Selectmen edict, we called it at the time.
Sure,
But-
I
And that
out
doesn't.
of curiosity, I didn't know where.
Sure,
those
and it
lived.
doesn't bind you, it really has nothing to do with today's discussion, but you should have that discussion and have something in place so everybody was on the same page.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to, is the ordinance they come up with, that basically, most of them just prohibit commercial. And
Mhm.
the city of Manchester tried for many years to do a mom and pop ordinance, where if you, you could sustain by doing like 2 barrels a week, then you could join the program at the curb, but you had to put it out at the curb. We couldn't go into your private property to pick it up, so Walmart, we couldn't pick up their stuff. Even the 2 barrels, right? They'd have to put it out on the main drag. But yeah, it certainly makes your life easier if you have a clear and defined policy of who's allowed in your program, and typically that is the line they draw. is
Right,
commercial.
and in the ensuing years, there really wasn't been much discussion among business owners. There was any issue because we all had dumpsters. But just to pick up on something that Andy had questioned first, and that was a question of ADUs. And that subject's come up for discussion in Kingston. You know, Brentwood, through our tax cards, we identify all our legal ADUs. You know, we'll see some more of those in the coming year. It looks like something that the town will support. It's part of state law now that ADUs are allowed in town. So in some cases, what Kingston does, if it's an official ADU, you get two sets of.
You're another
cars.
resident, it's a two-family basically, yeah.
But I'd like the idea of, you can get it all into one, that's a better option, but
Yeah.
I know there's been some battles in Kingston, so just to be forewarned that the question could arise. Thank you.
Now, would that be the same size also for the non-recycled as well, the 96 gallon for every other week?
We have to pick.
So
But we-
most towns are at 65 gallons that they prefer to have because it promotes recycling. So you could probably start looking at other town programs and see what they're all doing and maybe have a discussion based on that. But typically, we find that if you're gonna do weekly recycling, I mean, weekly
Or every
trash-
other week in weekly trash?
Yeah, if you're gonna do weekly trash, it's gonna be a 65-gallon cart and for both trash and recycling. But if you go every other week, it's gonna be 95 gallon. And that typically works very well. Except for these hardship ones that you'll find that, you know, you have to try to make something for them. Either they have to pay for additional services, or
Will the residents have an opportunity to buy a second cart, like a second recycling cart or a second trash cart?
so our collection rates are based on picking up, you know, 2 carts per week, one trash, one recycle.
Right.
And if you want to allow them to put extra carts out, at some point, you know, just like new homes, right? If all of a sudden you have had the same population for a long time, it's slowly growing, right? And most towns have seen some growth spurts because of, you know, what's going on in New Hampshire, right? We're very successful. We're a place where everybody wants to live. And you're seeing a lot more building in the last 10 years than we've seen in many, many years, right? So, but to your point, if we're basing our pickup rates on fake number 2,000 carts per week trash, 2,000 carts per week recycle, and then you're allowing everybody to go out and purchase extra carts from us, okay? Then, and we're at 2,500, well, over a year or so, all of a sudden, our rates are not good enough to support. And there's this is a little bit unknown, unless you're in the trash business, but it makes sense once I say it, but people don't think of it until I say it. But it literally takes the exact same amount of time to pick up an empty cart as it does a full cart. And the only synergy that you get back operationally is that maybe you don't have to make a second trip to the landfill, okay? But it's still gonna add on. If it's 16 seconds per cycle, now you've gone to 32 seconds for a two-person home. So we do try to keep that down
Discourage
because
that.
we wanna be successful too. So typically extra carts are designed to either you let someone buy a sticker, and part of the money comes to the carrier, part of the money goes to the town to offset their disposal costs, right? Or maybe their cart costs. Or you have them contract with the carrier to send them another cart, so you don't have to buy the cart. We put like a different color, or we put a sticker on it, or we give them a sticker, and each year, and they pay us enough money to provide you with a rebate for your disposal and us for the additional work that goes into that. So, but certainly a great discussion for you to have. It doesn't have to happen right off the bat. It can be developed over the next few years when you find out, you know, what happens after a whole year. Are people still having problems, or do they find ways, and there's, you know, they were just a little, you know, worried about it up front because it's a change, you know?
Can I ask a question? I know something that had come up at one of the times we talked about this in public was if somebody didn't want a recycling bin and wanted 2 trash bins, if that was allowed. And I don't know how that would work with your whole calculation of, because it's still 2 bins total.
In other words, they would prefer to have 2 trash bins and no recycling.
That is what the person said, yes.
Yeah, again, this is typically a town
Okay.
ideology. Hey, you know, it used to be, and I can't say this anymore because usually recycling's more expensive than trash now, but back in 2015 and before that, it was literally 0 disposal to pick up recycling because they were commodities that were worth a lot of money back then. And ever since the 2018, you know, Chinese sword where they stopped taking our materials, all of a sudden it's gone the other way and it costs more to get rid of recycling than it does trash. But it used to be an incentive to try to get people to, you give them a smaller barrel for trash and a bigger barrel for recycling to incentivize them to move away from the high cost disposal of trash into the no cost disposal of recycling. So, but towns would develop their ordinances based on their ideology of that. And so for me, if you tell us, you know, we would be a little worried about lopsiding the routes if it was if it caught on and everybody all of a sudden wanted to, you know, remember that trash route is designed to go so many hours, picking up so many homes.
And it's every week
expecting
too.
A barrel to be home. So yeah, hardship, you could develop a hardship. Maybe they have to go through some hoops and explain why they need to and why they don't want to recycle. But again, that would be a town discussion.
Trying to think if there's anything else.
Dexter?
Dexter Swayze, 42 Old Gordon Road. This is just an experience this winter. I was driving up to Raymond. I was on 107 going through Fremont, who has these type of cans. And it was in the wintertime, snowbanks. There was trash cans in the road on both sides. So this is, and 107's 2-lane road, and there were the smaller ones than that, but there was ones on, it was like driving, like a pinball machine driving through 107. It was very, very dangerous, and traffic coming both ways. So when you guys put the cans back, do you put it where you found it? Or does that arm that you have, does it reach out 3 feet, or can it reach 6 feet to put it in further? I'm more concerned in the wintertime, because we have no sidewalks or anything like that. So these things are in the road.
Yeah, so typically, you know, again, this is one of those problems that will change based on the weather patterns and the types of snowstorms you get. Wind plays a big part.
Yeah.
You have a really windy day. Of course, nothing is safe. You know, even conventional barrels aren't safe on windy days. But
Well, the guys right now will take mine and they'll chuck it in. They don't leave it in the road.
So the arms will go out 10 to 12 feet.
Oh, perfect.
So we can actually reach in between cars if it's safe and grab a barrel.
And put it back 10 feet?
Yeah.
So there should really never be a can in the road in the wintertime when there's a snowbank there.
No, not unless it was up against a snowbank to begin with in the road and we picked it up there.
And you're going to put it back where you found it?
Unless it's in the wrong spot. So if someone puts it in a place, like I was saying earlier, where it doesn't belong there, they will pick it up and put it where it belongs and put the placement sticker on it saying, place your cart here. But other than that, yes, they pick it up, they should put it back where it is. And typically, the stuff that we find with automated carts is, excuse me, I gotta get up and do it. With this, roads, a lot of times we tip over after collection or when the wind hits them, or you got a car or a truck driving down the road and it's developing a draft. and the draft is pulling stuff with it as it goes, it'll sometimes knock those over. But it's, again, it's usually policed individually by complaints or suggestions that people call us and say, hey, can you try this instead of this? And, or we'll say, maybe you got a better place to place it that won't be so susceptible to that. But I've never encountered, again, a situation in all my years that we couldn't resolve these issues through communication.
Well, I just that time of driving through Fremont, it was obvious that there wasn't any resolution. It was just pick up the next one and just leave it. They were in the road. They were all over the place.
Yeah,
And again, like I said, both sides of the road. So you're trying to drive with the traffic coming the other way. So it didn't seem like there was a resolution on Casella's part and stuff for that, to identify that this is a problem.
yeah. Well, the problem has to come to us before we can resolve it. So if someone called us and complained and said, hey, your driver left all the barrels out in the middle of the road, the only way you can resolve it is the next time and police it for the next time and talk to that driver, look at the video on the truck and say, oh, you're right, he was putting it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And
Well,
should-
But it's
that
not.
seems like common sense to me, but,
Yeah.
Just a thing to Casella, Fremont is Waste Management, not Casella.
oh, sorry, well.
It's a different
Okay.
company.
But even if
And,
it
and I think if the
was-
driveway
Sorry.
is not,
No, not at all. Even if it was, everybody has these issues, right?
Mhm.
Waste Management, Penarctic, Casella, Republic, we all do the same thing. And it wouldn't be as successful as it is if there wasn't ultimately a resolution. The people in Fremont, I'm sure at some point, would probably have reached out to Waste Management, and usually the people have video now. Hey, look, this is what your driver did. And it helps us educate the driver and get out there and do what we do.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, oh, yeah, sorry. Okay.
Jim Hazard, and I'll be speaking as the chair of the Municipal Budget Committee. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I found it really informative, and it actually was really timely. We had a Budget Committee meeting last evening, and the committee voted to establish a subcommittee to look at trash, waste management, and recycle costs going, into the future. So Gabby Kelly will be, and I think she's with Michelle on that subcommittee. So if you have a card, I'd love to get your card. If not, someone can get me Mr. Belanger's email, because I know one thing Gabby had looked at was there was a presentation given by the Northeast Resource Recovery Association that they gave to, I believe it was Newton, regarding, you mentioned about recycling, how at one time it was, we made money, it didn't cost us anything, and how that's changed, but that there are actually, there were suggestions given on how municipalities can do recycling and, make it cost effective. I mean, there are changes that can be made. So anyways, maybe that's something we could talk to you about, or at least talk to you, have Gabby, I'd like to get you, if you'd be willing to talk to her if she had any questions or whatever about that.
So I spend a lot of time with recycling committee, and they have different names and whatnot, sustainability committees and so on and so forth. And I'll tell you, this typically in this type of program, because it's zero sort, right? Everything's going into one barrel, and it's going to a transfer station and then down to a processing plant. There's no way to increase.
And my recollection of watching the presentation, and it was like over an hour, I believe. It was really good. And I believe that the town of Newton, what they had decided, and it was all what you said, that the I think it's called single stream, is no longer effective because the cardboard is very valuable. People will take pure cardboard. I think that's what I recall. But because we're throwing glass and other things in with it, it becomes useless. But that I believe they had said if they had bins where they could specifically separate cardboard or paper or things like that.
I'll do this as quick as I can.
Yeah, and I don't want to
There
take
is no
this off.
more successful program than zero sort or single stream. It is the most successful recycling program in the country, period. And so people get confused by the limitations of it. Single sort, which is what the second thing, what they were describing, is become a very good way to, back in the 70s, we used to do single sort, okay? If you remember that long ago, you had green glass, you had clear glass, you had this glass, that glass, And those things, what they were doing was separating every commodity to go to market clean, okay, as a commodity. And so there is no, fortunately, they closed down all the plants in New England for glass, and the only place is up in Montreal now. So glass is usually used for aggregate, for reuse, they call it, or landfill cover, which is, it sounds weird, it's going to a landfill, but it's not going in the landfill. It's being used to save money for having to buy dirt to cover the landfill. They use glass, okay? And they do recover glass still, and some of it does get reused and recycled. But that's a transfer station program versus a curbside program.
Correct,
Curbside,
absolutely.
Very, very trendy right now to go back to single sort, okay? You have the residents come in, it's free labor, right? They're
Right,
doing all the work.
right.
They
And like I said, I believe that's what Newton ended up
yeah,
doing,
they put
I
the
think.
aluminum in
Yeah,
one bucket,
right,
which is very valuable, the tin
Right.
cans in it.
Yeah. And the other thing was, I just in the time we had here, I did look at, like, there had to be 6 or 7 towns that had they already have these like trash policy statements out there. And I did not find one that said, oh, if the resident wants an extra barrel, that they could come buy one. They all basically say if the lid doesn't close, well, we're not taking it. And then there's like you can bring it somewhere or something like that. And I think we should definitely be cautious about just saying that we're going to give you another barrel, because I think it kind of defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here. All right.
Yeah, the ones that I ran in the Pinard run was, Hudson, Bow, Hampstead, and Tilton. They all decided to go with the, we call it a subscription program. And I did a yellow top subscription. So the yellow told everybody that, hey, this person's getting extra trash because they paid for it, and part of that money is going to the town to pay for the extra cost.
Right.
That way, everything is fair, and you're not breaking your own ordinance.
Yeah, correct.
Or the sticker program, which is probably the better way to go. But yeah.
Thank you again.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're not making any decisions tonight, but this is certainly the start of the process and educational, and sounds like we have some work to do.
Absolutely. And if you want to take this material and start talking about it amongst yourself, I'll be working with Andrea, obviously, to make this stuff happen. And I don't have a card, unfortunately. I spelled my title wrong, so I got an electronic one on my phone, which I'll give to you afterwards. But you all have my email with my cell phone number. I run by cell phone 24/7. Anyone has a question, I give it out to the residents. So I've never really been too shy about answering phone calls. So if any of you guys come up with stuff, feel free to reach out to me at any time.
Can you knock 50 grand off the contract? Is that possible? Can we do that?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just not pick up your neighborhood.
That's fine with me.
All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night, all.
So next on the agenda is Norman Garside with a request for haying.
It's just a letter.
Okay. You were going to address that, Andy?
I wasn't, but I can.
Please.
You have background on it.
So there's a parcel of land on Middle Road that was gifted to the town. The only thing the town can do with it is hay it. Norm Garside has hayed it and cut it back and kept it in a field state for, I think, BA before Andy. So he's just asking permission. He asks every year for permission, and we give him, we only do 1-year permissions, but, so. It's the second page of your packet.
Yep.
The lot number is 211.023.00, if anyone wants to look at it. It's just past, what's that road?
So the letter says, to the Selectmen of Brentwood, I, Norman Garside, would like to renew the lease for the town land formerly owned by George Bea to be used as a hay field, and I will continue to cut the brush that grows in along the edges. Thank you, Norman Garside. So,
Motion.
Seconded.
all right, Jim,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Buddy,
Aye.
John.
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye, so we've taken care of that. Moving on to regular business. Justin.
All right.
Yes.
Who, me?
Not as exhilarating as trash cans. We can try. All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, no problem. I had come to you guys earlier this year. We got our new cruiser that's been purchased. It's sitting at our upfitter right now in Atkinson. It's in the queue, but I haven't ordered the equipment for it yet. When I was here, I said, prices are expected to go up. They did. In working with Ambrose and Andrea and just looking at some accounts, instead of paying for the equipment for it out of my budget, there's a few accounts. For instance, we have a body camera account that was just set up to initially fund towards body cameras. It doesn't have to be used for body cameras. We have body cameras now that we purchased a couple years ago. Those are going to get replaced in a few months as part of our plan with Axon. But that account has $3,262 in it, just sitting doing nothing. I'd like to put that towards the equipment. We also have a drug forfeiture account, which hasn't been touched in years. We haven't, since I've been here, we haven't taken any drug forfeiture money in. That's not to say we won't in the future if we do have a big drug seizure. But that account has $3,258 in it, and what I would like to do is put $3,257 and leave $1 in there just to keep the account open for in the event we do have future drug seizures. So put that money towards the equipment, and then offset the rest between impact and detail. That way, there's no impact to my budget.
And what's the estimate for the outfit?
So I say between these two accounts, we'll call it, the 6,000, almost 6,500, or just over 6,500 bucks. And then I said at 10,000 at impact, and up to 10 out of detail, just because prices keep going up. That's just to be safe. I am still working out similar to the portable radios that we got. I'm trying to work out with the chief and Lee to see if I can get some new to us, but still relatively new radar units to help save some money. So I would like to say 25, but I don't necessarily expect to spend 25, just kind of to be safe, if you will.
Do you know how much you have in impact fees and detail fund?
Impact is 25,000, I believe,
25.
and that one is accurate. Detail right now is showing like 85,000. Whether or not that's been fully reconciled, I don't know. I'm comfortable knowing, I would say there's at least 30 to 35 in there, based off numbers that I was told from the previous town administrator and stuff like that. But
Is this an additional cruiser or you?
no, this is the one that we just purchased this year with the approval.
Replacement.
Yeah, one of the replacement
So
ones.
I don't think you can use impact fees,
I think we can because it's all new equipment.
but it's not growth. You need to, if you were adding a car to the fleet, you'd be able to use impact fees. But because it's replacing a car, impact fees don't.
Is it on the CIP?
That I don't know. I mean, if that's the case, I'd be comfortable doing then 20 out of detail.
And then if Lee doesn't work out, highway safety.
Yeah, those are coming out in July. And I know highway safety was potentially talking about doing no more matches anymore either, so it would be 100% coverage. I haven't confirmed that yet. but
Cool.
That would be really nice. So if I'm willing to scratch out the impact just for the sake of if Andy, you don't think I'd be able to do it.
I think it's something we can look at, but I would 100% make sure, just
Yeah.
so we do things correctly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So then I'll do, so again, the body camera account, drug forfeiture account, and then I would just say, ask for, I don't know, keep it an even number, up to 20 out of detail if needed.
Yeah, well, why don't we take a look and see whether or not that would fall within impact or not?
Okay.
Based on the, verbiage for impact.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't on the CIP, so.
It might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Why don't we take a look at it? Maybe we can, move conditionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with, just so we can get it done.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we can,
Well, can we approve doing it and figure out which lines it hits later?
I'm fine with that.
yeah, if you want to just put like an addendum in there sort of thing, or just a note, if impact doesn't work out, then detail.
Right.
If that works for you guys, that works for me.
right, so it'd be conditional upon whether
Yeah,
impact
confirming.
works out or not. And
Yep.
If it doesn't.
Do you want a
then-
motion?
I'll second it.
Do you want me to say the motion more clearly? I'd like to make a
Means that wasn't
motion
clear enough?
that we close out the body camera account
Yeah.
and leave $1 on the drug forfeiture account.
Yeah.
And then, if possible, use $10,000 from impact fees and the remaining from detail fund. If
Yep.
impact fees are not available,
All
the rest
detail.
from the detail fund.
Second.
Jim?
I'm an aye.
Letty?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next thing I have was, I wasn't able to make the last meeting. I know there was a little confusion over I think it's called the Clio letter for the state patrol grants. Just allowing me to work them if there was a need for it. Some of the grants are required. I'm not gonna take these grants if the other guys want them, obviously. It's just if I'm the only one available, I would take them. And then this is just allowing me to get paid a time and a half rate as opposed to because I'm a salaried employee. The wording of the letter came directly from the Office of Highway Safety, so their directions were to copy and paste it on your department letterhead and have your board sign off on it.
Cool.
So,
So it reads, while the chief is salaried for his general duties, it's the practice and policy of the town of Brentwood to permit the chief to work additional details and provide compensation based on his hourly rate, overtime rate for additional hours above and beyond the normal working hours required to perform the duties of police chief. Chief is salaried for 40 hours per week, and the expectation is that the chief will log at least 40 hours of work for the town before engaging in a detail such as New Hampshire safety grant programs. It's the practice of the department to provide an opportunity for all officers to sign up for a given detail before the chief signs up. I know you had some concerns, Andy. Does that
Yeah,
satisfy?
so it's the exact same letter, and it is the highway safety letter. The concern was the wording that it's the town's policy to provide additional compensation above and beyond normal working hours.
That is not our policy.
Correct. So, but I can't figure out, I just don't have time. That it's a town's policy to allow the chief to perform outside details and grant function activities paid at, because I don't want to say that, if we have a homicide tonight, we're not paying you overtime to come in.
no, I get it.
But that's above and beyond your normal working hours.
Yeah.
So I hope I just didn't jinx you.
Listen, I'm going on vacation on Sunday, okay?
you're not.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but this is the exact wording. I've polled other police chiefs, and this is
This
the
is what they
exact
asked
Yeah.
you to
what's on file with highway safety. So I say we just sign it.
I mean, you guys let me do it as a lieutenant, so it was the same thing.
I think the idea is that the letter is limited to details.
Yeah.
That,
And
That-
and right
that's the policy.
and highway safety because
Yeah.
Right. But
Make a motion that we sign this.
second
Okay.
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Okay, then I'm an aye, so
Cool.
I will, a letter.
And Chief, I just
We
like,
all have a letter. Here, mine's pretty complete.
I'd just like to commend you for looking after the town and making sure that, you're doing your due diligence to save the town money. I appreciate that.
No worries. I appreciate the recognition. I can keep helping, I will. Pays to know people
Not
sometimes.
if, when.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Should I bring the trash can back in? Do we need another-
Sure. Yeah, please, thank you.
We're gonna hide Daphne in it.
And actually, we'll,
Actually, what's next?
well, we're gonna bring Daphne over.
Is the chief
Daphne's
leaving?
non-public.
He was leaving.
Oh, because I wanted to ask him about,
Can I take a 5 minute? I just need to.
you can take a 5-minute.
All right.
This was not on the agenda, so I didn't know. Oh, just because, I don't know. I
Yeah,
wanted to know
we
how it was
can.
going before
Why
we
don't
give them more
why don't we
permission.
just- So, we'll wait till, ultimately till Jim comes back.
No, that's fine. I just thought that
So,
having.
yep, there's a lot, that's fine.
Talked to Paula today, so.
It's a letter, let me just read it out. It's a letter from the Raceway. We have a racer who's requested a private test session Thursday, May 15th, involving 2 cars, making a few runs between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. And since it falls outside standard racing hours, wanted to reach out in advance to request proper approval. We'll have all normal safety protocols and coverage in place. Additionally, we may be reaching out again regarding Monday, June 2nd, when a few professional NHRA drivers may want to stay after the national event to test. So, wait till Jim comes back and just, you can,
I'll just get comfy in the broken chair. Oh, no.
They're all,
Yeah, they're all-
those two are both a little sketchy.
We don't like people overstaying their welcome in these chairs.
Honestly.
see, so, you good with this?
It's in his packet.
I'm good with it. I saw it.
Everyone should have a copy.
I just wasn't sure, because the first thing I'm gonna ask is, how are they doing? You had your first event.
Then after, we'll have our town clerk, Daphne, to talk about a couple of issues with regard to some reaffirmation that's needed by the board to allow for advance payment of taxes, and then also an issue with regard to the dam.
The Mill Road Dam.
Not the one you're thinking of. Right. Because I know what you're thinking of. Okay.
Should have refilled my water.
Okay. So we're talking about the Raceway letter, where they're asking for some approval to run some tests at outside normal standard hours. Justin was going to address how things are going over there.
They had their first big event this past weekend, which was Import Wars. So I'm sure a lot of folks saw an increase in traffic, heard an increase in exhaust systems and kicker boxes and stuff like that. Definitely had a good turnout over there. We had our detail units on 27 and North Road, 27 and Urkel. We also had an enforcement car detail. Happy to say that Officer Wood, she crushed it with the enforcement. She stopped well over 20 cars, made an arrest, wrote some pretty egregious citations. So she did an absolutely amazing job. No public safety issues in regard to traffic at our traffic posts. So all in all, I would say for us, things went well. Hopefully they can continue to go well. But I will always ensure that, one, the officer's safety is my priority, and two, I will never do anything to compromise the safety or security for the residents. So any dragway event where we're involved, I always have the community's interests, are my interests. So again, I'm never gonna do anything to compromise that.
So, do you think for 2 cars, you're not gonna need they're not gonna need traffic control?
I wouldn't think so. I don't have an issue with these events.
They normally do test and tune on Wednesdays. It's just these are outside their
There's,
normal operating, so they can't do it without permission. Like
Correct.
Wednesdays, you can pay and rent the track, but because Wednesday's a race day, it's part of their operating. So this isn't anything.
Yeah, it shouldn't draw any crowds or anything.
Okay,
like that. Yeah.
don't know
It's
what
not
this
even
is.
open to the public.
right.
So,
The only people that are there are the races and the pit crew.
okay.
And the safety crew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
dragway
The
personnel.
dragway personnel.
And is it the
right.
same for the other one on the second?
Yes.
Yep. I would make a motion to approve the letter, approve them to do that.
Second.
Okay. All right,
Aye.
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 John?
Aye.
All right, and I'm an aye, so I think we're all set. Thank you,
Cool.
Chief.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Chief.
No problem, guys. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Esteemed Town Clerk is up next.
Are we gonna celebrate her for this?
Town clerk tax collector.
But it's Clerk Week.
Ah,
Didn't I see that?
Yes, the governor made a proclamation.
Yes.
Yes, I will expect a beverage cart and lunch the rest of the week.
Okay.
it does say that from Kelly Ayotte, Governor, a proclamation. It's a little long to read the whole thing, but it's a very nice proclamation.
I have time. I don't know if I
It's Municipal Clerks Week, May 4th through May 10th of 2025, and it's encouraged that all citizens join in honoring the dedication and professionalism of our municipal clerks.
all of them. Thank you very much. That's sweet. Is that it?
I could go on, but I gave it the summary version.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Whereas.
Trash took up most of the night, sorry.
I get it.
So you're here to talk about RSA 80:52-A, which is a statute that permits prepayment of taxes. So if you can just explain what that is and why we
Sure.
want to do this.
So historically, and I don't know when this happened, it definitely well into Phyllis's town clerk days. But the town can, and the select board can approve that you can take up to 2 years of prepayments. So we have a lot of like $1 tax bills, and somebody would like to throw me a 10, but we can only take 2 years, which is great. That said, when I was at the tax collector's workshop, the DRA was there, and they had our permanent file, and we don't have anything in there about the prepayment of taxes. Doesn't mean that we don't have it, it means they were not given it, I can't find it. So they suggested to have the board quickly just approve it again, reiterate that we will continue to do that. Once I have those minutes, I will forward it to the DRA and get it put in our permanent file.
Do people do this?
Oh, yes.
I mean, if I had a $1, I would definitely pay ahead so I don't have to come in every year.
But even
for $1.
people, you know, we have several people that they always are trying to pay forward, you know, to stay ahead of things. So instead of giving them refunds every time, we put it towards the next bills.
And the statute does.
Motion.
Yep.
Second.
Okay. I was just going to say that the statute does authorize the select board to vote upon this. So it's, I don't know that it's necessarily a new vote, but it's basically a reaffirmation vote. So
The only question that I have is, do we set a limit as to how many years in advance we can?
It's 2 in the
It's
statute.
Oh,
2
two,
years.
okay.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, the statute specifically.
okay.
So we have a motion and a second.
Aye.
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 John?
Aye.
I'm an aye, so I think we're all set with that. And then I think you wanted to bring to us a situation with the dam over on Mill Road. So if you can explain what that is and what we're looking at.
Sure. So the folks that own the dam, it's not the town, but the folks that own it don't pay taxes. Ever. They have not paid them ever. And so I think part of the reason that they don't pay them is they don't want the dam. And they don't, I do have more of these, but that's what I got out.
I don't know. I've seen it.
And we have not wanted to take the dam through a deed because of its disrepair or
Condition.
and it's also a liability, obviously. So the question, I know we had sort of broached the subject before, but the question would be, do we want to remove this off of the warrant completely? We are never gonna take the dam. They are never gonna pay the taxes on the dam. What's happening?
Would we be, is there a difference between doing that and abating it?
Well, you'd have to abate every time.
If we removed it, would that mean in perpetuity forever? Like, say if, some owner gets the property and then removes the dam, would it mean that we're doing this in perpetuity?
No, because the property is the property, but the dam, like, if the dam is removed, it doesn't exist anymore. So then this tax file wouldn't exist.
Well, this is just on the dam itself?
Just the dam.
Okay.
John,
John?
Yeah, so they still own the dam if we remove this off of the warrant, right? Daphne, as in,
Yes.
I'm talking about the liability.
They still own it. We do
aspect.
not own it. We would just
Okay.
make it exempt. We wouldn't
gotcha.
continue
Okay.
to bill it for what reason, because we're not getting the money.
Is there a
are there
question
any
in the,
drawbacks?
I don't know.
You have to come up to the
Come on up.
table.
Bruce? Thank you.
Yeah, this has been a subject for many years. The
Bruce
fact-
Stevens, South
Bruce
Road.
Stevens, South Road, I'm sorry. So I would suggest you leave things as they are, so that the present owner would have no option of trying to deny liability, because it looks like that's at least a $500,000 remediation or removal cost. So there's a lot of work being done right now through the State Dam Bureau. I got an email 3 or 4 months ago and said, please continue to contact us here at the Dam Bureau. It's under DES, but it's a separate subgroup under Department of Environmental Services, and it's called the Dam Bureau. And actually, we had a speaker here at Conservation, 2 months ago, from the American Rivers. Mhm. And he'd been in contact with the State Dam Bureau and is working toward some sort of resolution. The last report I got from the Dam Bureau, an inspector there said that we intend to, have that dam removed, and they're trying to figure out legally what they can hold the present owner responsible for. There was a meeting 10 years ago in Portsmouth when the state said, came in and took the floodgate out and let the water out. It lowered the water table for people living along the river. They were concerned. And there was a big meeting in Portsmouth about what to do about it. The owner at the time wanted to sell the land, sell the dam to the group of residents that own homes there. But he wanted an exorbitant amount of money, and it just didn't make sense. And at that time, we had 3 representatives from the Dam Bureau at the meeting in Portsmouth, and they said, legally, we are not letting the owner off the hook for his responsibility. So whether you abate it for some reason, I mean, I wouldn't even abate it. I would just let the taxes pile up there. Clearly, that would show that who owned it. If he said, they're abating my taxes, that might weaken your position in terms of the town incurring some liability. So why mess with something that isn't broken at this point? I realize it's a pain in the neck to not collect the tax on it, and we definitely don't want to put it up for tax sale.
No, oh, no.
No,
that's-
no, that was not the option.
So the only other option when people don't pay their taxes is to take the property, and we do not.
Right, so just as one person, I would say, don't touch it, just let it stay as is.
But I'm not sure it affects the liability.
I'm not an attorney, I don't know. What I would be willing to do would be to recontact my contact there at the Dam Bureau here in the next week's time and come back and report to the board in a couple of weeks as to what their plan is, because he said, hey, please keep in touch with us. Squeaky wheel gets the oil and grease, and
Okay, thank you.
so we have all the facts on the table before you make a decision.
Just on the other side of that, I would question whether leaving it on the tax roll would increase our liability, because why are we deeding one property and not another? That could be a question, right? Like
What do
when
you
we,
mean deeding? What?
So typically when people don't pay their taxes for a few years, they take the property,
Correct.
except for this dam.
Right, but there's good rationale for that. There's a long track record of the New Hampshire Dam Bureau being aware of this situation, and they've,
Right, but there's no precedent for us just leaving a property alone when they don't pay their taxes.
well, unless you're sued or something, why mess with it?
That's what I'm saying. We would be setting a I think that's what your point is. We'd be
Yes.
setting a precedent that if you just don't pay your taxes, we'll just leave you alone.
Right, another case could come along where some property was contaminated with oil or some sort of hazardous waste, and
Yep,
We
we,
shouldn't do
we just dealt with one of those.
Eric? Yep. And actually, well, I'll talk about that later business, not to get off the topic, so.
Becky Dunham, Conservation. Andrew Fisk from American Rivers did speak at our January meeting, and he is working with the owner and with the state on removing the dam. So if I can give me a week to call Andrew Fisk and find out what the status is of his part of this project, I would appreciate that. At least we'd have more information to act on.
I'll make a motion to table it for a week.
Yeah, and we have time
So the
till
next meeting.
like May 19th, right? 20th?
Oh, sorry.
Yep, Jim?
Just real quick, I mean, if they do remove the dam, is there property actually to take? Like, is there land, or is this?
No,
is
the
it-
dam is the
It's,
property.
the dam is
Yes,
just
the
deeded, the
property is
dam by
owned by
itself.
somebody else.
Okay, so if he removes it, it's gone. Okay, and you know, I was just thinking that, like, 'cause if the dam's gone, then, well, that
What do we
property's
have?
there, we could own, right. Thank you.
My other question would be, if the dam has been removed, how do we get our money?
We don't.
We still get our money, right? So we don't get our money either way.
Right.
So it's keeping it on the books, not on the books,
Yeah,
it's the same
it-
thing.
It may not matter from a legal standpoint, so.
No, it's owned by a different party. Yes,
How can it be owned by a
Is
different
it?
party? And
the
Daphne, do
physical
you,
land, because you can't own the middle of the river.
Yep, Brentwood Dam Ventures.
Yeah, that's who owns the dam.
Yep,
well,
that's their billing address, yes.
we can bring this back up, but at least, if we get a little more information, that might be helpful. So we do have a motion to table.
Second.
That's been seconded. Jim,
Aye.
You don't want to keep this, or we
Andy?
do it later?
Aye.
Buddy,
Aye.
John?
All right.
Okay, and I'm an aye. So we'll table that for now, and we'll
Okay.
revisit it.
Great.
Why don't you stay, if you don't mind?
Ooh.
Stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Why?
Dun, dun, dun.
E.
Yeah.
What'd
So.
you do, Daphne?
I don't know.
So the next item on the agenda is we're talking about creating a position that would involve your office, but would also involve Andrea's office as well. So if you could speak to that, Andrea, and you could speak to it as well.
Yeah, Daphne and I had talked about creating a position where, because she still needs a part-time person in her office. And I said, well, why don't we have someone to do some of the finances? So I worked out some numbers. If we can get someone in by June 1st, for the 7 months, it's selectmen's budget and, or for the selectmen's office and the town clerk tax collector, it would be 32,000. She has some money in her budget. I found money in our budget.
So this would be under the government,
Buildings, yeah.
and then also the town clerk's office to do some of the,
Office assistant,
yeah,
yes.
and I think you were looking at up to 20 hours.
Yeah, you had a position already budgeted for how, 20 hours?
It was already budgeted for 16 hours, including retirement, all of that. So this would be an increase of 4 hours in my office, taking 4 hours away from that office.
So how many, would this be a full-time position?
Mm-hmm.
And this would be a financial position to assist with specifically?
Whatever she can pick up, reconciling.
Okay.
Mostly
So,
getting some of the accounts straight. The ambulance revolving fund needs to be looked at, and there's projects.
yeah, so moving and doing the reconciliations, moving forward?
Yep.
Okay. And we do have a person in mind, but because that is a hiring issue specifically, we were going to go into non-public, not at this point, but later on, after we're done, to, address that in particular, but.
So we're
Yeah.
not posting it.
Correct.
Does it have a job description?
No,
Nope.
we would have to create one. Well, town clerk, tax collector would have a job description because we've had somebody in that position.
And from the government side, it would be dealing with financial issues in terms of the things that we've been talking about in terms of reconciliation and, those kinds of
And
issues.
technically, we should have some type of job description because we did have somebody in that position 5 years ago.
Okay. We can certainly create a job description for that, but that would be the general, gist of that. Yep. So I don't know if there's discussion that we want to have amongst the board. I know there's a comment out there in the audience, but I'll give folks here.
I actually had this discussion with Daphne at the town election that we should try to get this off the ground. It's cheaper than paying a consultant. Obviously, that the consultant probably is going to be able to work faster and get stuff done quicker, but having our own person makes more sense than outsourcing. So I actually talked to Daphne about this at town elections and said she should try to figure out how to do it.
I'm in complete agreement and support it, especially with what we've had to deal with in recent past here in town. I think it behoove us to have another person in here that can be accountable and separate from the town administrator.
No other comments from the board, I think.
I had a question.
I-
Where did
I
you think
guess-
this was coming from? Where in the budget is this coming from?
This is under government, the government, not buildings, but government, general government, thank you. I found under grant writer, and there is that $20,000 line for expense offset.
Okay, so that would mean we have no buffer if any of the other departments go over.
You're going to need that full amount.
Yeah, but this is what that comes in at, 32. This is for the next 7 months, 32,083. That's for Daphne and myself. So not all of that is coming from our government building. Not all of that is coming from the government building. Some of that will be coming from Daphne's, which is, yours is 13,860 is what we figured. So back that number, and our number would be 17,880.
Okay, so
For
actually
7
it looks like there's a fair amount of cushion.
Yeah,
Okay.
John had a question.
Yeah, John?
I guess I'm still not super clear on exactly what this job is that we're creating here in terms of like I can't picture what the the job description looks like for myself, and then also what's the thought process on going into next year's budget cycle and the impact it's going to have on that side of things. Again, just reiterating the fact that we all know that there's a tax cap here we're dealing with.
So benefits and retirement have already been budgeted for because the person dropped down to part-time that was in that position.
For 20 hours, though.
Right, but the benefits and the retirement have been budgeted because we were paying, even though she only worked in town clerk 16 hours, she worked in other departments to round out the 40, so we had,
So all of the benefits and retirement came out of your budget?
No, it came out of library
Okay,
and cemetery.
okay, so it isn't
Funding.
in that budget.
No, but it's in the town budget,
Right.
so it's
For
not,
purposes of he's addressing the cap issue, I think. that
Yes.
John was referring to.
But
Yes.
that person still works for the town.
but no longer gets health care or retirement.
Okay. What about their salary for next year?
So their salary in my office,
Or just, how much would the total for next year be?
For the selectmen,
Just the change over last year?
the selectmen would be, for next year, would be $30,992. Daphne's would be $24,024.
30,900 total, including
909,
retirement?
that's not.
No, retirement's budgeted already.
that's already budgeted. That would already be in there. You're looking at a difference in my office of 4 hours.
So $30,000. That's kind of the answer.
Sounds about right.
Janice is raising her hand, and
Yeah.
I feel like just because it's library-based,
Well, I think Liz was up first, and then we'll get Janice.
Liz Faria, South Road, and I'm kind of like with John on this. How did we do this before? Like how,
town-
who did, who did the finance?
the town administrator.
Not totally true.
That's right.
That, well,
We,
yes and no.
we were outsourcing to New Hampshire, I forget the name, MRI.
Yeah, the
And then-
reconciliations.
Prior to that, we had a full-time employee that was doing it.
But is this person doing more than just reconciliations?
I don't know because we haven't,
No, well, reconciliations is not another 24 hours a week.
20.
Reconciliations is not 20 hours a week.
It could be this year.
Let's not, ma'am.
Let's be honest. It
Ma'am.
could be this year. Yes, ma'am.
So, because we were talking about hiring what's her name for 10 hours a month to do reconciliations, and now we're hiring someone for 20 hours a week. So is there something else aside from reconciliations that this person would be intended to do with their time?
Keeping track of the revolving accounts, the ambulance revolving account still, we don't really know what's in that. I mean, there's lots of stuff to the finance job.
Right, and that's the stuff that the town administrator used to do.
And can I remind you of the situation that we're in currently because of that?
No, we're in the situation we're in right now because nothing was done after the town administrator left. It was done up until she left.
Wrong. Done wrong.
No.
Done wrong.
Okay.
Well, it's just confusing between finance person, town administrator, treasurer, payroll, I'm confused as to whose job is, just like John said.
Well, this would be a shared job
John and Liz.
between the clerk's office and the government office, in part to deal with financial moving forward, and in part to deal with clerk issues with the town clerk. I mean, it's really as simple as that. So,
I disagree. I don't think it is as simple as that. I think that we have multiple potentially entangled job descriptions that we're describing
It's
right
not
now
clear.
that we have
It
to
needs to be totally clear.
see. I mean, look, it is not every day that Liz Faria and I
Exactly.
are in agreement, and I got to tell you that Liz Faria and I are in. I don't know, Liz. Like something's going on weird
I
here
don't know,
because
but-
you and I are agreeing wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Just need to have a good job description.
Or good job descriptions for all these things, the town administrator, the treasurer, the whoever's doing, I don't know, what it's payroll or whatever, like, they need to be separated out. This person does this person, I think.
Janice, do you, I'm sorry, were you done, Liz? Okay, Janice, I think you had something?
Hi, Janice Weirs, representing the library. So I just have a question. When the full-time person went to part-time, the library agreed to increase her hours from 18 to 20 and allow her to have earn time build up as a regular full-time, a regular part-time employee. So we were counting on the fact that we had already budgeted for, retirement and insurance and all of that. Are you saying now that's going to be going away? We won't have that to rely on?
I actually don't, we can't touch the library budget. We just send them their check every quarter, right?
Correct.
Question mark?
Well,
isn't-
but
isn't
this is
related to
payroll,
the
so it's
library.
different.
This isn't related to the library person. We're talking about a,
Well, yes, because some of the budget money is in the library line item that we're talking about.
Because the person who was formerly,
Worked at the library, so they paid their share of retirement and health insurance.
okay.
So that's accounted for in our budget for the coming year. And that's what we had based the remainder of the year and being able to do that adjustment with her.
yeah, I don't think the select board can, I think we just have to send them their quarterly checks, right? So,
And I don't want to throw a wrench into it because I know you guys need this. I just also don't want to end up short.
Yeah, I don't see how this shorts what, your situation, so.
It does, because we don't have that, we don't have the retirement and healthcare money.
So the library pays a portion or paid a portion of the retirement and benefits for that person. And because we had already budgeted for it, we shifted it to give her 2 additional hours per week and put her in a 20-hour position, which for the library constitutes regular part-time, which accrues benefits, not insurance, not retirement, but benefits. So, I mean, earn time, thank you. So it accrues earn time and those 2 additional hours.
Do you remember that? We had talked about this, I don't know, a month and a half ago. And I thought you said for the insurance, you did put there was an additional person there. We didn't have,
Yes, there should be I believe when Karen did the budget, she added an additional family plan.
Karen didn't do the budget this year, Jen and I did, and we added an additional family plan, but we also just hired 3 new people at the fire department. So that's probably gone.
So then question number 2 is the library has 2 full-time people eligible for insurance who are not currently taking insurance, but let's say one of our spouses were to be laid off. What
Then-
happens then?
Well, then you take insurance because it's a benefit of your employment with the town.
But it's not budgeted?
Doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I'm just having,
It's a qualifying event that the town would
Right.
have to
And
add.
that's not in your budget. That's in,
and we're hoping
that's
that's
in
not
the
gonna
insurance
happen.
budget, so it wouldn't affect you either way.
Okay. I just want to be, everybody thinking about all that because it does play into this, I think.
I'm still lost, Andy, on why that, impacts what we're talking about.
So besides, obviously because benefits is in a separate line item, that doesn't affect it. But the money that was budgeted for retirement in the library budget, we don't have access to.
Okay.
So that won't be able to offset the money that we would need for the $32,000 for this year, or whatever it would be for next year. We don't have
No,
access
because
to
retirement
any-
wouldn't be that much.
I mean, so what are we talking about? Like an extra
Sell something else.
percentage in benefits? I mean, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, so it would be, you would have to find the money for healthcare for the rest of the year and retirement for the rest of the year. And then
It sounded like from what was in the government budget, there was a fair.
that's just payroll.
Well, I just brought in over $20,000 for selling 2 pieces of equipment. Can that
No.
help?
It's gotta go, you can only allocate what's budgeted, and revenue from sales doesn't account for
Right,
that.
but my point is that it sounds like there's a fair amount in that budget already, in the government budget, up to, $55,000, and that's not even talking about the clerk's, budget. So,
I'm down with it, but I think everybody needs to see a breakdown of where the money's coming from, a job description, and I think we have the need for this, but I think there's questions to make sure that we have the money for it. And then the money continuing going forward
okay.
next year.
So why don't I task both of you to put together job description that would specify exactly what we're looking for, and also to specify now understanding, that we're talking about benefits on top of it, where those monies would come from in the existing budget.
Thank you,
And then
Janice.
we'll bring that forward at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have something, Jim? Go ahead.
Jim Hasher, 33 Mohawk Lane. I cannot believe that I'm sitting here, Mr. Chairman, and hearing someone say that the previous town administrator did this job before. I have asked for the most simple numbers from the town administrator and the select board, and I can't get them because they say things are still being reconciliations going on, that we've inherited a mess, and I'm not going to get into the details that I've been told that were not happening. So I cannot believe that people are sitting here saying the former town administrator did this before. It was not being done. So, and you can say whatever you want when I leave. The last thing I would say is that people saying that because we have the legislative body implemented a tax cap into this town would prevent us from having someone to do finance work is just, again, fear-mongering scare tactics. Because I will tell you this, I told the budget committee will be looking this year to prioritize and strategically plan where we need resources. And I would think this would be one of those places we need it. And the final thing I'll say is, when I did as a private citizen, the comparison to the 9 other municipalities in Rockingham County that had the same population and valuation as Brentwood, I think this board should look at what do those towns have? Do they have a finance person, part-time, full-time? I think it'll be eye-opening. So, thank you.
We're going to bring this forward at the next meeting, and we'll move on. Thank you.
So we're not allowed to respond to that?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Select board members we're all equals here. So Letty, if you have something to say, like, just because someone tells you that you're not allowed to say it doesn't mean that you can't say it. Like, we're all equals.
Well, no, we're ending the discussion, and I'm making that decision, John. So there we go.
That's not how this works, Paul. Like, you set the agenda, but Letty has, so she has something to say, she can say it, man.
Well, she could say it during, other portions, but for this, presentation at this time, I'm making the decision that we're done. We're moving it on to the next meeting, and it can be discussed at that time. We have other things on the agenda, so we're moving on. All right. We're going to pass over town administrator job description.
No,
because
thank you.
Yep.
It's on the agenda. I'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, well, we're moving.
I second. No, this is not your meeting, Paul. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, we're moving on from that.
I'd like to make a motion to follow the agenda.
Okay, you have a motion. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it because you just said that we couldn't talk about that other thing because you were moving on in the agenda.
No.
I think we should set expectations for the, I mean, somebody needs a direction of the town administrator's job description while we present everything together, so I think there needs to be a discussion before we discuss the finance person as well, so my opinion is that there should be a discussion about what we want for the town administrator's position before she creates one for the part-time finance position, or whatever, however we label it.
I guess what my thinking there, Andy, was that, you know, we would at least have something in writing and in draft, you know, to present and then to discuss. So.
That makes
you know,
sense.
I thought that would be a better idea than just to have some
And
discussion.
you had
in the-
already said that will be discussed at the next meeting.
Yeah, so I thought that that would be a better idea than just merely discussing in the abstract. I mean, if you want to discuss in the abstract, we can.
Are we not making those job descriptions? I guess if we're portioning out part of these finance responsibilities to a new person, don't we need to know what the existing person is gonna be doing, so we know what the other person has to do?
Yeah, I agree, but I think, you know, when we have that on paper in terms of, you know, what that would be.
But how do we get it on paper if we as a board don't discuss it?
Well, I thought that we could have Andrea present that at the next meeting, something on paper for us to discuss. And if you prefer, we could discuss it in the abstract. I mean, that's, you know, it's up to the board. But I thought it would make sense to at least have something on paper after Andrea had a chance to draft that.
I have no problem with that, just that idea.
Okay. So we have a motion to follow the agenda. There was one.
I'm a no.
No.
And I'm a no, so we'll move on. Let's go to MTS conversion.
Yep, I talked with, his name escapes me. Anyway, Christian for MTS, he finally sent a quote. Total on the quote is, this one is, let's see here. It is the finance company that we are switching, we'd like to switch over to from BMSI. Yep. So, not a finance person, it's the finance software the person would be using, and Jillian would be using. So it is, the number is the 18,500. Actually, no, hold on here, sorry. 1, 2, 3. It's 22,750. I apologize. And that is the conversion, that includes the conversion training and the one-time license.
Okay. So this was moving over to the new software, and this has been, you know, part of
We've talked about it before, we just didn't have a quote. It took Christian a while to get it over to us, so.
Yeah.
And the conversion would happen, he's looking at, if you approve this, it's looking late summer. It's a 3-month process.
The MSI is the old software that has, you know, basically
DOS-based.
become, you know, unmanageable. So I think this is what the update is and what it would cost. So I'll take discussion.
And this would come out of capital reserve fund?
Correct.
Do we know how much money is in the capital reserve
I've
fund?
reached out to trustee of the trust funds to get the most current balance, and I have not heard yet. Still think it's within. I think once we're done converting everything, though, you may want to consider a warrant article to bring that balance back up.
Where would the annual costs be in the budget?
Under, do you have the, I don't have the budget in front of me. There's an IT.
What does,
line?
does BSMI have an annual cost to it?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, we already paid it this year.
Yeah, but how much is it?
I don't know.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have the budget. The
Well-
annual cost for this, though, the annual cost is $7,763.
Do you think that it's similar to what BMSI?
I think it is, yes.
So at least my understanding is that this is something that has been a, you know, a long time incoming and something that is a need in order to update and make things smooth moving forward. So I will, if there's any comment in the public, or if there's any other thoughts, on the board.
I would just like to see what the difference, I know we need it, but I'd like to see what the annual support cost difference is to try to figure out how much additional money we'll need in the budget.
Go look it up. If you give Jillian a minute, she'll go look.
Okay.
Can we play some music while we wait?
Can we jump?
We can jump to the tax cap.
Well, no, I was gonna ask John about, we had talked about last time you were in the office about the camp financial aid.
Ooh, what?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was,
Yeah, it was like the first.
that was on A in the agenda, and I skipped over it, but why don't we bring it back here, so. You want to address that, John?
Sure. So last year,
We're coming back to it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Last year, we offered financial aid for kids to be able to attend camp, partial weeks of the summer where there was a need, and we were able to. I mean, this is really not a big dollar item, but just wanted to make sure that we wanted to continue to offer that ability for families to be able to have that as an option if that's something that that they need, and to offset the costs associated with it. Obviously, it's low dollar figure amounts, but in order to pay for the camp staff, etc.
Do you remember last year how we vetted candidates?
The select board didn't have the direct decision. I think we delegated that to Andy, and the amount was, please don't quote me on this, but I want to say the amount was less than $1,000 last year. So,
Are you looking for some sort of approval or motion, or what are you looking for, John?
just I guess a general sense of if we're all comfortable with continuing with that as we approach summer, so that we can make sure that all families have the option of sending their kids to summer camp if that is necessary for their families.
Would that come out of the operating budget or the rec revolving fund?
Operating budget.
So you don't really,
I don't know.
like, you're not taking it because you're allowing them to go.
Yeah, really, it wouldn't.
We pay for all sorts of weird things out of the revolving fund.
No, I know, but I'm just saying is you don't have any extra costs. Your costs are the same, whether you supplement. You're still paying the counselors no matter whether 2 extra children are there or not.
Okay.
So
But I would like to see a breakdown of what qualifies you for, like, we should have some standard of,
in other words,
I think that's fair. Yeah.
so in
I
other
can
words,
bring
we'd be
that.
comping them.
yes.
Yeah, no problem with that. Yeah.
Becky Dunham, just reading Facebook, or I think the recreation page. I think you were doing some fundraising for this, John. I think that was discussed at a recreation meeting, and I thought I saw some event you scheduled, the proceeds of which will go towards financial aid for summer camps.
That very well may be, Becky. I wasn't personally involved in that, but
Okay.
they may have tried to
Yeah,
fundraise. I mean, I know that I know that there are some private funds that go
Yep.
towards some of this.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. So you're right. It's just I wanted to make sure that
Yep.
we knew that this program was
Yep.
out there.
Well, I wish them success in that.
Yeah, and I think
thanks,
it's an excellent cause, and I appreciate you bringing it forward, John. I think we could at least, indicate our
Support.
Support for it,
and
absolutely.
then were you going to get, some definition on qualification?
Yeah, I haven't asked for that, but I think that's a reasonable request.
Okay, so, I don't know that we need a motion per se, but I think everyone agrees with.
I wasn't really looking for a specific motion. I just wanted to have the conversation with the board, and if we're all in general agreement that this is something that we're willing to support. There's no really motion because there's no specific amount yet, but I will relay the general feeling of the board tomorrow to the rec committee, and also I'll get you the a qualification statement or something along those lines for people who would be requesting this.
Cool.
All right, appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks.
The last item for regular,
Should we go back to the,
oh, yes.
The yearly cost for BMSI is actually $10,534.
great,
Motion.
seconded,
Jim?
aye.
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 Abstain.
I think Liz had a question if you want to entertain it.
Was it with respect to what we just voted on?
So
We will have public comment coming up.
Liz,
Okay.
Liz Freya,
Liz for your South Road. Okay, yeah, I can wait for public comment if you want.
Okay.
I was just gonna say for the new finance, we do have some people here that are in town that can use the new finance software, correct? We will have, without a finance this is new finance software, right? The MTS conversion?
Well, the idea would be for people to be trained on that, correct?
Okay, but we have the current people. The other thing I didn't quite understand when you were doing the finance, is that gonna be a full-time position?
It's
Yes.
going to be full-time position, but half-time allocated to the government office
4
and
hours
half-time
there
to
and
the
the rest.
clerk's office.
Okay, and so it would be, and that would be an ongoing position after this year, presumably.
True.
Did the consultant that you already hired for the reconciliation, is that finished? Or is that person still working for us?
No, that person was not able to complete the reconciliation, so we're still in the process of needing to do that.
So would that be a new person that does it, or is that fine?
Theoretically or potentially, it could be this person who
Same
we,
person?
end up, hiring if we create the position.
Okay, and I thought before we hired Andrea, we already had a town administrator job description. We didn't ever have one before we hired
No,
people
there was
recently?
yes, there was a town
So it
administrator.
exists, it exists.
It does exist.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay.
On that note, how many hours of the
Oh, you got quiet.
No, you need to say it
Can you hear me
again.
now? Sorry.
Try again.
Sorry, how many hours, on the note of the consultant, how many hours have we had them in-house so far?
She did the 40. She did the 40. Up to 40, and she worked 40.
How much did she get done?
Up until 2024. In 2024, she said that was time consuming. It was a mess. It was Jim sat in the meeting with us, and so she said that she's got a full-time job. She says you need someone that has the time to work on that.
I thought she was doing 2024.
She reconciled 2023, and she didn't get past like February with the credit cards, and there's also cash reconciliation as well.
But I guess didn't she like evaluate the situation and then tell us it was going to take 40 hours, and then I could be misremembering.
2024, and it was worse than she had thought it would be. It was a lot. It was a mess. So, and we need to get it reconciled to do our audit. So I do have.
Yeah, I guess I guess what from a like a deliverables standpoint, right? Like if I'm hiring a consultant for really any context and they say, okay, it's going to take 40 hours to do this, and by hour 8, they're like, oh, this is never going to get done, you would get some sort of insight into that, and then you wouldn't complete the full 40 hours because you're not going to get to your deliverable. And I feel a little misled, I guess, because if we paid for the full 40 hours to get through 2024 and there's no deliverable,
I don't think that was ever said that it was gonna take 40 hours to do all of 2024. I don't think that was ever said.
that was.
I think what happened is that we got through 23, and that ended up taking the most of the time, or into the beginning of 2024, and then it became more than what was anticipated. So, you know, in a sense, it is what it is. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
I think back to John's point, us as a board probably should have been notified that the 40-hour was not a realistic goal. Just me personally, I'm still going to keep everything tight because we weren't getting the communication before and we saw what happened. So I just think that we need to make sure we keep the communication up. Just, you know, hey, I don't know if she told Andrea and Andrea told you and it just didn't get to us, but
Got
you
to
know,
Jim.
just like, hey, she can't do it in 40 hours. We have problems.
Yep.
This is why we need somebody here 20 hours a week to do that.
Yep.
It's more of a sellable need instead of a want, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's fair. That's fair.
And that's not against you.
No,
It's just,
It literally was in between meetings too, and Paul and Jim both knew about it. So I do apologize. I didn't, for everyone.
Yeah, it's been 3 weeks.
no, I totally get it. I'm just saying that it was undeliverable, and when she got into it, she was probably like, oh my God, this is a 120-hour program, not a 40.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Which line is she getting charged to?
The grants line.
No, she shouldn't be in the grants line because she's not a grant.
Well, you gotta find the money somewhere.
No, I'm not saying find the money. I'm saying if it's an expense, it should be put on the correct line so that when we're looking to make a budget for next year, we know how much we spent on things.
Where's your finance person line?
We don't have one because
Who do
we
you suggest
didn't,
we get it from?
because when we
So-
made the budget this
talked
year,
about the
we
grant
rolled
writing.
it, no, but
Yeah.
we rolled this year when we were building the budget, the select board decided that since we were no longer outsourcing the reconciliations, and we were gonna have Ambrose do the reconciliations, that was rolled into the,
Treasurer?
to the treasurer's position. At the risk of getting yelled at again, up until very recently, these things were part of a different job description.
So I just want to clarify a couple of things. On March 25th, according to our board minutes, we approved 8 hours at $125 an hour to assess the status of Brentwood's financials by this person. And then fast forward to our meeting on April 1st, we got an update on the finance contractor, and the contractor estimated that it will take her approximately 40 hours, again at $125 per hour, to correct Brentwood's finances from 2021 to the present. And then, so I guess that, so we paid for the 8 hours of an assessment, and we did pay for the 40 hours on top of that. At least that's what the minutes reflect. from our meetings and our discussions and our votes. And so this, like, this is a concern, I think, that we need, you know, we had a deliverable. It's not been met. And, you know,
think
it is
what's-
what it is,
I think
but
what- yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's acknowledged, and actually, I think, as I'm understanding it, it was 40 hours as opposed to 48, but regardless.
I'm just going
regardless.
off of what the minutes said.
Understood.
Yeah.
Beating a dead horse.
Okay. Next item is tax cap. Is that something that you wanted to address, Letty?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know because it was a question, I know, I think at our last meeting and then also at the last building committee meeting, just wanting to confirm that, or have an understanding of how the tax cap would affect the town's ability to get a bond for a new building or for anything else. And it was confirmed that it will not affect our ability to do that. There is a method to surpass the tax cap and the 10% rule if the legislative body wishes to, just by adding a phrase saying that they understand that they're doing that by approving the bond.
I kind of looked at the bill in effect now, and I think that would supersede that, and it would make it more difficult to supersede the tax cap.
Yes, but for a bond, since a bond issue is always a warrant article and it's always a ballot vote in 3/5, it wouldn't change that. But yes, there is House Bill 200 that's being put forth that would change the way it currently is written, which it says it's currently under usual means or something, some phrase like that, which is a simple majority, and the bill would change it to a 3/5 vote.
Which a bond is anyways.
Yes, but for other things, it would complicate things.
Yeah, and at this point, it's just a
A bill.
bill that is out there, so we don't know what's going to happen to it. As it presently exists, the statute, at least as I read it, would allow the legislative body to do as it otherwise would do at town meeting if it wanted to exceed the cap or not.
Exceed the budget committee's recommendation.
Or exceed the budget committee's, recommendation, which would be within the cap or not. This bill seems to put limits upon the legislative body, which really then does change, I think, what was voted for at the time, and I think that's the concern that NHMA has put out in an alert.
Because it would be it would be retroactively effective
Right.
to any, so like, what we voted on in March,
Wouldn't be the same rules.
yes,
Right.
we would have something
It
different.
would be
in
a
place
change of the rules
that
in
we never,
essence.
that we never voted on.
So I have some question about the legality of that and whether or not that would be challengeable, but again, I don't think there's anything that we can do about it at this point in time. It's something that's out there for people's
Mhm.
thought process. All right. Public comment at this point, or have we exhausted public comment? Yes, come on up.
My name is Gerard Porteous. I live at 8 Sunset Lane. I've been here for 6 years. I read in your April 1 meeting minutes that you approved the move of a stop sign at James Circle and Three Ponds Drive. I came tonight to ask that you would revisit that with the aid of your traffic engineer with the hopes of reversing that decision, for the sake of safety. We all walk dogs down there. We have north of 25 people that have pets and dogs, and obviously in the best of conditions, removing a stop sign from its current location at a T intersection is contrary to all traffic engineering principles and disciplines.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So yes, and please feel free to remain where you are. We do have a letter from the developer, Mr. Falzone, in our packet where he does indicate that that stop sign where it was something that was done with traffic design and consultant, and that's why it was there. And he's suggesting that if we were going to make the change that we ended up doing, that we would want to, at least have that looked at by the town engineer. My suggestion at this point is that we may wish to consider moving to reconsider the decision we made last time with regard to the change, because frankly, that was done without consulting on our part, and it was based on, town residents. It was also based on presentation by the planning clerk, Mark Kennedy, who I know has also had reservation and second thought about this as well.
Make a motion that we leave the stop signs alone until we can figure out if we should change them.
Or move to reconsider our previous decision and,
Revoke our previous decision?
yeah.
Can I just add to that?
Yeah.
Like, and we do not incur any expense if the Three Ponds Association wants to pay our town engineer's fee to evaluate that and give us a decision on it.
Oh, I just wasn't gonna evaluate it. I was just gonna say.
I mean, if it needs to be changed and they want to pay to have the traffic survey done by our town engineer, I have no problem with them presenting something to us at not the town's cost.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so as a friendly amendment, a motion to, reconsider our previous decision on that. So,
Why don't we revoke? I'll make a motion to
Yeah,
revoke it.
I don't think we should reconsider.
With the agreement that if Three Ponds would like to do anything, it's at their expense.
so legally, we should probably do it as a motion to reconsider, and then,
Okay.
with a revocation.
Yeah,
So
we just, I think,
Okay.
I think legally, you're supposed to do a motion to reconsider.
I'll make the motion to reconsider with the additional,
reconsidering is just reopening it.
Yeah,
Yes.
reopening,
Okay.
and then we can move
Done.
to revoke.
Yep.
So, give a second.
Second.
Yep. All
Aye.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And now is there another motion to revoke our previous decision?
I'll make a motion to revoke our previous decision.
Yeah, with the condition that,
Didn't we?
Three Ponds Association can pay for our town engineer to do a traffic study.
Aye.
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 and I'm an aye. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public comment? Yep. Sorry, Jim. I just felt like legally we should move to reconsider and then do the revocation. I know it seems inefficient.
Well, actually, I was on the agenda to speak on tax cap. My name was there, but I think Letty covered it, except one thing that I just wanted to say, and there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of noise out there about overriding the tax cap. I mean, the 3/5 of the legislative body approved the tax cap just at town meeting. And then, as we've discussed at now our 2 budget committee meetings, that the focus that we are looking at is trying to strategically plan and understand and prioritize so that we will put forth a budget that is within the tax cap. And Mr. Chairman, I hope that you and I will be working together this year, because even on a large project, there are ways of doing it within the tax cap. So again, I just wanted to add that on top of, there are ways to get around it, but I hope we're going to focus a lot of energy on trying to live within the tax cap, since that's what the legislative body has dictated that we do. Thank you.
Yep, noted. I'm sure we'll be meeting on that.
Betsy Ibbotson, Scrabble Road. One good thing, the summer rec camp seems to be going really good. We're getting, my grandson is going to be going there, so we have been getting some really good communication from Jason, who is the counselor that we hired part-time at town meeting. He's been doing a really good job. it looks like they have a few older people that are going to help college-age kids, which I think will help a lot over there. So that's looking very promising. Then I had a question, just a general question. Jim, I know you've mentioned a couple of times that $20,000, was that surplus equipment? Do we have a list of that somewhere in case anybody's interested in it? Or how's the decision made to sell that kind of stuff?
Well, the decision to sell these pieces of equipment were done by the select board.
When
I
was
mean,
that?
So,
Then,
yeah, we had a preliminary discussion by way of email, but actually that should be, ratified at this meeting. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Well, part of it
Okay,
was
'cause I
the fire
didn't-
engine, which.
Right, was
We did
already
discuss.
correct.
Right.
Right.
But the tractor, I think there was a tractor, something, there were some pictures online. I didn't
Yep.
remember hearing anything at a select board meeting.
Yeah,
Um,
you're correct.
It's
Since
on,
then.
it's on my list to cover tonight.
Okay, I'm,
Yep.
I'm just asking,
Mhm.
because, I mean, I'm hearing 20,000 here, I mean, all that adds up, and we're trying to get in this tax cap, so every little penny,
Income doesn't.
$20,000.
Income
counts.
doesn't.
What was that, Letty?
Just something Andy had said earlier, income doesn't change what the budget is.
I know, but we still should be accounting for where we're getting stuff. I know someone asked, how they could get on the list if there's, extra equipment around or chairs, anything that we're selling. I think there should be some type of a process to do that. And to go along with that, I know you got the loader for a really good price, but then you said, well, since we got such a good price, I added on all this extra stuff. And is that something that we decided as a town that we were gonna spend that extra? I believe you said $35,000 for extras for the,
No,
no?
no.
Oh,
We added on a backup camera, strobe lights, and rear fenders. And I believe that total came to roughly $6,000. But that was included in the overall cost that we approved.
okay. I didn't understand it that way when I heard it here. I'll go home and listen to it again.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's all wonderful stuff. I'm not
Yep.
complaining, but it just, it's nice to know what exactly happens. And, if we're having an extra, I look at it, if it was 6,000, extra 6,000, then it seems like it should have come before the board and you guys should have agreed.
It wasn't, it was,
Did
We
we?
did.
it was approved in the, yes, in the overall final number, it was approved.
Yes, when we.
I'll go back and listen.
Yeah.
When we voted to approve the purchase, the extras were in that approval.
Matter of
Like
fact,
not to exceed or something.
matter of fact, it was voted on not to exceed 145,000, and I think our total cost was 139, if I'm not mistaken.
I
Yeah.
have to go back,
I'll
but
go-
I know,
I'll
I
go
know
back
we
and
voted
Yeah.
on it. so-
I can go back and listen
Yeah.
to the tape. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other public comment?
Hit the button.
Sorry, heard the discussion about the Three Ponds road signs. And I just want the board to know that when that development was proposed, going back pretty close to 5 years now, the applicant, Mr. Felzone, hired a traffic engineer, produced a report. The town, as is our normal procedure, hires our own traffic engineer at the cost. The cost goes to the developer. So they've well paid for the information that they have. I mean, the homeowners have paid through their cost of their home and their monthly fees for condo upkeep. So I don't think they should, in any way, should be asked to pay any more money because the consultant for
If
the.
they want to change where the stop sign is.
Yeah, only if they wanted to change.
Right, it sounds like they want to leave it as is.
Well, this.
Some
this-
people want to change it.
This
Okay.
guy did today, but then there were a group of people the other day who
Okay,
wanted
fair enough in that case,
Yeah.
but I did want you to know it's been reviewed by two
Yep.
certified licensed engineers to this point. And the other comment is just a reminder, an invitation, a shout out to townspeople that next Thursday night, 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 o'clock at the BRC is our Brentwood Housing Forum. And I know we've kind of, using Jim's terms, beat this to death too about noticing people. It's appeared on the Brentwood newsletter a number of times. But the Office of State Planning, in conjunction with the RPC, allotted Brentwood $100,000 over the last 2 years to look at our land use ordinances, including our housing ordinance, something we haven't updated for probably at least 18 years. And this money was spent to bring townspeople or provide a forum for people to come in and make comment. We started a year ago with a citizen survey of the whole town. People put down what they thought were good points about our ordinances, what were bad points. We've taken that information, and now with the help of this consultant, we've developed a program where people can come in next Wednesday, again, Thursday, rather, 5 to 7 p.m. You don't have to stay for the whole thing, but you just make comment as to how you think that we should proceed in terms of what the board is advocating. So,
Do you want to plug also the Green Pro the night before?
if Doug's going to do that. Thank you. Okay, so that's Thursday night. Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, there's a meeting here of the Conservation Commission, and we have a speaker from UNH, and he's works for UNH and the New Hampshire Department of Transportation on what we refer to as the Green Snow Program. And I have to applaud John Morgan. John, 4 years ago now, made that the Green Snow program a requirement of new housing developments in town. The river, at least the river one, the last one that we did.
Yep.
And after doing a lot of research and going to several seminars that Doug and I went to, and we also had the Brentwood DPW attend with us, we learned a lot about how we can save money in terms of salt and sand application in the wintertime. And it will also protect our, Exeter River and Great Bay watershed, because we have 8 bridges in town where all the runoff from the snow fighting chemicals and sand go into the Exeter River. So we think we're going to hear from this person who's going to outline the basic concept of the program. It's something that may take a year or two to initiate, to get the the town DPW fully compliant with the requirements of that. But it's something that we do not have to buy new equipment for or additional equipment. We have the equipment already installed on the last 2 highway trucks that the town has bought. But what we'd be looking for is, after discussion and presentation, a buy-in from the Board of Selectmen that this would be their policy to steer the town toward formally abiding by the Green Snow program.
I think it'll be educational, and certainly after that program, we can certainly bring that before the board as a potential policy for
Oh, certainly.
DPW.
And again, we're not going to change habits overnight, but the big thing, I think the big takeaway from it is, if you look at the state and our surrounding towns, Exeter, Kingston, Fremont, Epping, people no longer use sand. And as you've all seen from driving around Brentwood Town roads the last number of years, it looks like we actually have dirt roads in the wintertime. There's so much sand applied. And this gentleman next Wednesday will explain to us how we can use salt to fight the ice or eliminate the ice and not have to put additional sand onto our roads. So I think it's a good thing, and we'll save money too. It's going to be a salt saving money.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yep, thank you, Bruce. Any other public comment?
It's a update on RPC.
Doug.
Doug
Doug Finnan?
Doug Finnan, Gove Road. Speaking on behalf of the RPC, as I received an email from Tim Roach today, and there's a major concern because, as you know, there's been a lot of funding cuts in the state. RPC is no exception at this point in time. Tim Roach, director of the RPC, reached out to all commissioners and asked to address our select board and town residents to write an email in support of the targeted block grant to New Hampshire, RPC's House Bill 1. The amount that has been given in the past has been $100,000. It has been rescinded by the BEA, which is the Business and Economic Affairs Committee, and eliminated it from the state budget. The concern is that it's going before the House on Friday, and the commission has gotten $100,000 in the past for 9 regional commissions, a total of $11,111 per commission. Helping support things like the South Road 125 intersection, 2 housing grants that we have had support on the master plan, and in the past, charrettes in the local area. The commission is asking it to be reinstated. Doug Marino is actually testifying tonight. If not, he's already done with the Senate Finance hearing, advocating for the RPC to have this reinstated. The executive session is on HB1 this Friday, May 9th. I would encourage any board member or the select board to consider supporting the RPC in getting this funding back. It's beneficial for not only our town, other towns, and we have benefited in the past. Just like all other departments, major cuts. And as Tim said, I'm reaching out to ask, please reach out to the Senate Finance Committee as well as your local state senator asking for this funding to be reinstated. That's it.
Thank you. What was the bill number?
HB
Bill number, HB1. Okay.
Janice Weirs, representing the library. I just want to back up what Doug just said and talk about how the budget was set to cut all funding to, all IMLS funding to New Hampshire libraries. And in an overnight campaign of reaching out, writing letters, giving impact statements about how this was going to affect all of our libraries, we were able to reverse a major cut from the person who originally proposed the amendment. He backed that down. Now, there are still some other sort of back of the house kind of cuts, but that will remain to be seen how that's going to work. But reaching out to your reps is absolutely effective. And I just want to reiterate that it's time well spent. If it feels like a lot of work, it can be, but it's time well spent. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board business or board updates? John, you want to start?
Rec tomorrow.
Okay, Letty?
All I got.
Budget committee was last night. As I summarized earlier, Jim was able to, through a combination of speaking to DRA and NHMA, make some presentations about kind of what the tax cap meant, how it would be applied, some test calculations to kind of understand kind of where those would be done. The next meeting is June 5th, I think. 9th? Close. That's it.
Jim?
I've got a few things, so bear with me. We did sell a tractor that was originally used by the rec, but hadn't been used in several years. And we were able to sell that for $5,500. Spoke to the fire department.
Do we need a motion to reconfirm that? Because I know there was, discussion via email about that, but I think we need a motion to
Okay, yeah.
confirm that. So if you want to
Okay.
move.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the sale of that tractor for $5,500.
Second.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
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 John?
Aye. Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Okay. The fire department, they're, Roy is working with the state to try and acquire a UTV from the state at no cost to us. And they'd be looking to outfit it for trail use for a quick response for either a injury or fire-related use. It's a free program from the state, and I think it's a really good thing that he's working on. So he's working on that. Police, I'm working with the New England Dragway, along with the police department, to help in future
Disagreements?
disagreements or whatever. Anyway, highway department, Wayne's working with the company that he uses for the roads. They're going to be, as soon as this rain is kind of settled down, he's going to work on repaving, some of the roads that he already has slated. I do want to thank publicly Mike Sanborn and Jessica Sanborn of Sanborn Excavation. They graciously provided transportation for a return of the loader, and they donated that time to us, so that was really helpful. And the last thing, I'd like to go on record and kind of put this in the selectmen's heads. I think that every department should have their meetings recorded and the minutes posted on the town website in order to be completely open and transparent. I think it's important, and I don't think that's being done right now, so.
Every department or every board?
Every board.
Can we mandate that? I guess, other than planning board, everyone is a subset of the select board? Or if it's a town policy, can we do that?
I don't know. I think that's something we should look at. Because I think that was what we were looking to move forward to with the new system of ease of access, was that everything was going to be.
I wouldn't want, the mandate aspect of it, it sounds a little harsh, but
I think it
certainly,
should be a mandate, like,
as opposed to an encourage.
yeah, this,
What is the reason not to do it?
Mandates always make me a little nervous, but.
you live in.
Jillian has a question.
I just feel like maybe we should look at scheduling a little bit. I know I was in a meeting down there last week when there was a meeting in here last week.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure most people want to see this budget committee meeting, not the cemetery meeting.
Correct.
Then maybe, maybe we just change some of those meetings so that they don't conflict anymore.
So, I mean, part of the package we have is scheduling of this room. So there's no reason why there should be conflicts, like, it should be able to be.
Yeah, I think it's important to be transparent, and I think that if there's a committee or a board that's meeting, discussing the town, it should be recorded, and it should be available to the public.
Yep.
Before we have Janice, was there anything further, Jim? Janice, did you want to comment upon that?
Sorry, I'm quite chatty tonight. Janice from the library. I think the trustees would be on board with that. We have discussed that. The problem for us is our meeting comes, when it was on Mondays, it was during open hours. So we had to have the meeting at the library, and we do not have the equipment to do this kind of thing. We can't meet here. On Wednesdays, it's a little different, but again, we're closing at 6. And usually it's the 2 full-timers who are there, and we both need to be at the meeting. So we would have to change our times and things like that. So it would have to be something that I brought back to the board. And
You could do this.
okay, well, as
So the
It's a
select board
separate-
can't mandate the library
Right.
trustees.
That was what I was
So-
gonna say.
We're talking about town boards.
Right, okay. Well,
Nevertheless, I
and
think
again,
it would
I'm
be a
not,
good idea.
I'm not opposed to it. I don't think our trustees are opposed to it. We do believe in transparency. Our meetings are always open to the public. They're always posted. And we keep public minutes the way that we should be.
Are
That
those,
being
where are those posted?
on our website, on the About Us page, which is where all the trustee information is. Yeah.
Okay.
I
And they
think
go
if it could
way
be
back.
worked out schedule-wise, it would be
And I can go
good
back
idea.
to them. So second piece, Andy, our meeting is next Wednesday. But certainly we can discuss it. It's just, I can't mandate that for them. They would have to make that decision because they are separate from the town. But we do like to do as much as we can in coordination with the town. That's always been our piece. And I don't want to speak for anybody. I'm just bringing up some of the possible difficulties we have. So, Letty, you said the remote.
Yeah.
Meaning some people we'd have to have the quorum here.
Well, you're saying that some people would have to be at the library. And so
Yes.
this would be a way for the people that have to stay at the library to still join the meeting.
Okay. So the trustees being here and then the staff being there until we could then transfer to here?
You don't have to.
Just keep on from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
That's an option. I will definitely discuss that with our trustees.
great.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Andrea, can you check with New Hampshire municipals to see if the select board can issue a selectman's ordinance on that, or requirement, or
Yeah, a mandate,
an ordinance? That way it's like a law.
like a law. Okay.
Like a law.
Andy, any updates?
No?
Okay. Not at all. Yep,
I will be quick.
yep.
Can the board give the building inspector permission to sign off on building permits, so he doesn't have to wait in between meetings to have them signed off on?
Instead of us having.
Is there a reason that we do?
I think because you always did it.
Oh,
the,
that's my least favorite reason.
I'm in favor of that.
I think if there's no requirement that the board sign it, there's no reason that we sign it. Honestly, I just look at the list to make sure that nobody is in conflict of my signature and sign.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of trust that we have with the building
I
inspector
think it
to,
would still be good to have it in the list in the consent agenda, just for public record, honestly. But other than that, yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Aye.
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 John?
Aye.
Yep, and I'm an aye. So we're all set with that. Anything else, Andrew? Okay. The conservation and planning, I think that was covered, the two major events. The only thing I would mention, I mentioned this last time, that from the Noyes Estate property, I think it was alluded to earlier, we had received 85,000. We also received an additional, it was 135, right? Yeah, an additional 135. So for a total of $220,000 from that estate. There's actually still $10,000 left in escrow, which if there's no other claims made, that will come to the town as well. So that's a fairly significant revenue
Nice.
that was brought in through that legal matter.
Very good.
That's all I have at this point. So I want to thank everyone for attending. We're going to make a motion to go into public for issues,
Private.
non-public, sorry.
Public.
It's been a long night.
has.
Pertaining to reputation, pertaining to hiring, and pertaining to unsealing minutes from the April 1st meeting. Can I have a motion?
I will make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And an aye. Why don't we take, is 10 minutes okay with everyone?
Five.
How about 5?
All right, about 5.
So I'm gonna turn off the live stream, but we have to leave our microphones on. I'm mostly just talking.